Welcome to our deep dive into Luce, the Vatican's new mascot for the 2025 Jubilee year.
Right.
We've got some interesting sources lined up today from like Wikipedia and Catholic News Agency articles. But also, we're going to be heading into the depths of Reddit,
Ooh,
specifically the top character designs and conspiracy subreddits.
sounds fascinating.
Get ready to be surprised because the Vatican just went full anime.
Yeah, that's what's interesting here. This choice to use something as unexpected as anime for
Right.
such a significant religious event.
It definitely seems like a bold move trying to engage with youth culture this way.
Huh.
I mean, who could have predicted that the face of this centuries-old institution would
Yeah,
be like a blue-haired anime girl?
definitely not me.
But before we, jump into all the reactions and everything, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Can you give us a rundown of who Luce is and what she represents?
Okay, so Luce is designed by Simone Legno.
Okay.
He's the founder of that popular brand Tokidoki.
Right.
And she's meant to be like a modern-day pilgrim.
Okay.
And that ties directly into the Jubilee year,
Mm-hmm.
which is, like a special year of grace and pardon celebrated in the Catholic Church.
Right.
It encourages pilgrimages to Rome.
So she's not just some random anime character. She's really rooted in Catholic tradition.
Exactly.
I'm curious, though, what about her design?
Okay.
Like, we've got the blue hair, the yellow raincoat,
Yeah, the muddy boots.
muddy boots, even a pilgrim staff. Isn't there, like, more to it than meets the eye?
Well, the design, it's very symbolic.
Okay.
Each element has like a deeper meaning.
Right.
So the blue hair, maybe that's just like contemporary anime aesthetics.
Yeah.
But the yellow raincoat, that's a direct link to the Vatican City flag.
Oh, okay.
It symbolizes weathering life's storms.
That makes sense, yeah.
Uh-huh.
What about the muddy boots?
Yeah.
Are those symbolic, too?
Definitely, they represent the challenging journey of life.
Right.
Literally for pilgrims,
Yeah.
but also metaphorically in our own like personal journeys. And then that pilgrim staff she's carrying, that emphasizes this even more.
Okay.
It symbolizes the path to eternity.
Oh, I noticed something in her design, too.
Yeah.
Her eyes, they have those little scallop shell highlights. Is that another pilgrimage reference?
Absolutely, yeah. The scallop shell, it's a classic symbol of pilgrimage,
Okay.
particularly the Camino de Santiago,
Mm-hmm.
that famous pilgrimage route to the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Spain.
Right.
It means that Luce's journey, and also by extension the Jubilee itself, is about more than just like physical travel.
Right.
It's about, spiritual growth,
Yeah.
seeking something greater than ourselves.
It sounds like they really put a lot of thought into her design.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
why go full anime for a religious event like this?
Yeah.
What's the Vatican's motivation here, do you think?
Well, Archbishop Rino Fisichella, he's responsible for organizing the Jubilee. And he said that the church wants to connect with youth culture and speak their language. And what better way to do that in the 21st century
Right.
than through something as globally popular as anime?
So they're trying to bridge the gap between tradition and modern culture.
Yeah.
And speaking of modern culture, the internet definitely had a lot to say about Luce,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
didn't it?
The moment Luce was revealed, the internet just exploded,
I can imagine.
with reactions and memes and comparisons.
It's amazing how quickly something like this goes viral.
Yeah.
What were some of the, most notable reactions that you saw?
A lot of people right away, they were comparing her to A. Oto
Okay.
from that anime Wonder Egg Priority.
Right.
They both have the blue hair and that overall style.
Makes sense.
Reddit, especially the top character designs subreddit,
Mm-hmm.
it was just buzzing with discussions about her design.
Yeah.
Some people praised its creativity, while others were, I think, a little bewildered by it.
Right.
The Vatican embracing anime aesthetics.
I can imagine. Yeah.
It's definitely different.
Did you find anything interesting on other parts of Reddit?
Well, the conspiracy subreddit, they had their own take,
Oh, of course, the conspiracy theorists.
as you might expect.
What kind of theories did they come up with?
Well, some were trying to connect her name, Luce, to Lucifer,
Oh, wow.
suggesting a darker meaning.
Okay.
Others were claiming her design elements were secretly satanic symbols.
Really?
Yeah, but these claims, they don't really have any basis.
Okay.
Luce, it just means light in Italian.
Right.
It's a common name, strong religious connotations, especially in the book of Genesis,
Yeah.
and the design elements they're fixated on. It's all pretty standard Catholic imagery.
Right.
It's just presented in a new, stylized way.
So they're reading a bit too much into it.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's interesting, though, their reactions do highlight,
Mm-hmm.
a certain skepticism that some people have towards large institutions, especially religious ones.
Right.
But before we get into all of that, let's talk about something else interesting about Luce.
Okay.
She's not making this pilgrimage alone.
Oh, really?
She has a whole crew.
A crew. Tell me more.
Luce has a pet dog named Santino.
Okay.
And she's got a group of friends, too.
Okay.
Alfie, Shin, and Sky.
Okay, interesting.
Each friend has a really unique appearance.
Yeah.
It makes you think they might represent different continents or ethnicities.
That's a good point.
Maybe emphasizing the global reach of the Jubilee and the Church's message of unity.
It could be.
This is getting more and more intriguing.
It is.
So we've got Luce, the anime pilgrim.
Yeah.
Her faithful dog, Santino.
Right.
This diverse group of friends all set to represent the Vatican at the 2025 Jubilee.
Yep.
It seems like the Church is trying to make a statement here.
Definitely.
But the question is, will it work?
Right.
Can a mascot like Luce, with all her anime charm and her modern appeal, can she really bridge the gap between the Church and younger generations?
That's the question, isn't it?
What do you think?
Well, based on what we've talked about so far,
Yeah.
do you think Luce has the potential to resonate with a younger audience?
It's hard to say,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a fascinating attempt
Right.
to make the Church feel more approachable and relevant in today's world.
Absolutely.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Luce's playful design and her, unexpected presence could be the key to sparking meaningful conversations
Yeah.
about faith and spirituality in a way that traditional methods haven't been able to.
That's a great point.
Could be something completely new.
Yeah. And it leads us to the heart of our deep dive today.
Okay.
Can Luce really bridge the gap between the ancient and the modern, the sacred and the secular?
Right.
We'll have to delve deeper into that question in the next part of our exploration.
Sounds good to me. It's kind of wild to see how the Vatican is walking this tightrope between tradition and modernity. On one hand, you've got this ancient institution steeped in history and ritual. And then on the other hand, they're embracing this mascot that's straight out of modern pop culture.
Yeah.
What do you make of that contrast?
It's definitely striking, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the point,
Okay.
Like, by choosing something so unexpected,
Right.
like an anime pilgrim,
Yeah.
the Vatican could be signaling that they're willing to engage with the world on its own terms.
Right. Instead of, expecting people to come to them.
Exactly. To meet people where they are.
But do you think this approach could backfire at all?
Oh, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, could it alienate older, more traditional members of the church?
Right.
They might see it as a trivialization of their faith.
A little too modern. Yeah.
Yeah, change is always met with resistance.
True.
And not everyone will be happy with this new direction.
Of course.
But, the church has always adapted.
Right.
To different cultural contexts throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
So this could just be another example of that.
Right.
An attempt to stay relevant and accessible.
Yeah.
In a world that's changing so rapidly.
Yeah, but is a mascot really enough to bridge that gap between the church and younger generations?
Yeah.
I mean, some people might say it's just a superficial gesture, more about headlines than genuine engagement.
Yeah, that's true. A mascot alone isn't going to solve all the challenges facing the church in the 21st century.
Yeah.
But it can be like a powerful symbol,
Okay.
a conversation starter.
All right.
Luce's appearances, at these events like Luca comics and games, that could spark some unexpected dialogues
Interesting.
about faith and religion in places where those conversations wouldn't normally happen.
Right. Places that aren't usually associated with religion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, imagine a bunch of cosplayers, right? Debating the symbolism of Luce's staff.
Yeah.
Or her role as a pilgrim.
Right.
While they're waiting in line for a panel.
Yeah. I love that image.
Yeah.
It's really about meeting people where they are, using their language, their cultural references to open up that space for dialogue.
Absolutely.
But let's dig a little deeper into the symbolism here. Yeah. Earlier we were talking about that scallop shell on Luce's eyes.
Right.
That symbol of pilgrimage.
Yeah, especially the Camino de Santiago.
Right. Can you tell us a bit more about the significance of the Camino?
Sure.
And how it relates to Luce's role as the mascot for the Jubilee?
So the Camino de Santiago, it's one of the most famous Christian pilgrimages in the world.
Okay.
For centuries, people from all walks of life have walked this ancient path,
Wow.
seeking spiritual growth, forgiveness, or just a deeper connection with their faith.
This is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and the scallop shell, it became associated with the Camino as like a symbol of the journey itself.
Oh, interesting.
You know, like a badge of honor for those who had completed it.
A souvenir, almost?
Kind of, yeah. So by putting the scallop shell in Luce's design, the Vatican's drawing a parallel, right?
Okay.
Between the personal pilgrimages of individuals
Right.
and the bigger, spiritual journey that the Jubilee year represents.
So it's about connecting those individual journeys
Yeah.
with a collective experience of faith and renewal.
Exactly.
It's also interesting to think about the Jubilee itself.
Yeah.
It has a long and rich history.
It does.
Can you tell our listener a little bit more about that?
Sure. The Jubilee, also called the Holy Year,
Okay.
it's been celebrated in the Catholic Church since the 15th century.
Wow.
Traditionally, it's a time for pilgrims to journey to Rome,
Right.
to receive special indulgences and participate in all sorts of religious ceremonies.
It's a pretty big deal then.
Yeah, and the 2025 Jubilee, that'll be the 75th anniversary of the previous one.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty significant event for the church.
So Luce isn't just representing, the modern face of the church.
Right.
She's carrying, the weight of centuries of tradition
That's a good point.
on her small anime shoulders.
Yeah.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is, but it's also, a testament to how the church is evolving with the times,
Right.
the mascot, the modern media, the events like Luca comics and games.
Yeah.
It all points to a shift
Interesting.
in how the church is communicating its message.
Yeah, it seems like they're acknowledging that to stay relevant, they need to speak the language of the digital age.
Right. And that includes memes and viral content.
Yeah.
And even anime.
Do you think this is a sustainable approach for them long term?
Well, I guess only time will tell.
Sure.
But I think it's a fascinating experiment.
Yeah.
The results will definitely be worth watching.
For sure.
The church is navigating a really complex landscape.
Uh-huh.
And these efforts to engage with contemporary culture, while they might be controversial, they're a sign that they're willing to adapt and evolve.
It's definitely generating a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
And speaking of discussion, we can't really ignore, the elephant in the room, the internet's reaction to Luce. We've talked about the memes and the conspiracy theories, but what about the overall tone of the conversation online?
It's been a mixed bag.
I can imagine.
As you'd expect, I guess.
Yeah.
Some people have embraced Luce,
Okay.
praising the design, the message of unity,
Right.
the Vatican's willingness to step outside their comfort zone. Others are more skeptical, though. They see her as a gimmick
Right.
or a desperate attempt to pander to younger generations.
It seems like she's become a bit of a lightning rod
Yeah,
for some deeper anxieties about the role of religion in the modern world.
absolutely. It reflects those larger cultural tensions that we're seeing, across society. The rise of secularism, the increasing distrust of institutions, a rapid pace of technological change.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it all contributes to a sense of uncertainty and unease.
And Luce has kind of become a focal point for those anxieties.
She has.
A symbol of either hope or fear.
Right.
Depending on your perspective.
Exactly.
It is interesting how something as seemingly innocent as an anime mascot can get such strong reactions from people.
It is, but it speaks to the power of symbols.
Yeah.
Especially religious symbols.
Yeah.
To really tap into our deepest hopes and fears.
But let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
I want to talk about the potential impact of Luce on the Jubilee itself.
Right.
Do you think her presence will actually draw more people to the event?
That's tough to say for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think Luce will probably increase awareness of the Jubilee.
Okay.
Especially among younger people.
Right. Who might not have known about it otherwise.
Yeah, whether that translates into more people actually participating, who knows? But even if Luce doesn't lead to a huge surge in pilgrimages, her presence is still significant.
How so?
Well, she's a symbol of the church's effort.
Okay.
To engage with the modern world in a way that feels meaningful.
Yeah.
And whether or not you agree with the Vatican's approach, you can't deny that Luce has sparked a conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
A debate about the role of religion in the 21st century and how it can connect with a new generation.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So Luce's existence is kind of a statement in itself.
It is.
A challenge to these traditional notions of how the church should operate and communicate. It's like a reminder that even these ancient institutions can evolve, adapt, and find new ways to reach out to a changing world.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that we shouldn't underestimate pop culture and its power to influence, inspire, and even challenge, our deeply held beliefs.
Speaking of influence, I'm curious about your thoughts on the Vatican's broader media strategy.
Yeah.
They're on TikTok now, they're developing apps.
Yeah.
They're even experimenting with virtual reality.
Wild.
Do you see these efforts as sincere attempts to connect with people?
Yeah.
Or just as desperate ploys for attention?
I think it's probably a bit of both.
Okay.
There's no denying that the church is facing a crisis of relevance in a lot of parts of the world.
Yeah.
The rise of secularism, coupled with all the scandals and controversies, that's eroded trust.
Yeah.
And led to declining attendance.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's an element of desperation in these efforts to stay relevant and attract new followers.
Makes sense.
But I also think there's a genuine desire there.
Okay.
To connect with people, where they are.
Right.
To use the tools of the digital age to share a message of hope and faith.
It's like they're trying to reconcile the timeless wisdom of their teachings with this fast-paced, ever-changing digital world.
It's a tough balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating to watch.
It is.
Yeah.
This raises another question, though.
Oh, yeah.
Is it even possible for an institution like the Catholic Church, with its long history and traditions, to really bridge the gap with a generation that often sees religion as irrelevant or even hostile to their values?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a really complex question.
Yeah.
And there are no easy answers.
Of course.
But I think it's important to remember that throughout history, the church has shown an ability to adapt and evolve.
You mentioned earlier how the church has adapted to different cultural contexts throughout history.
Right.
Can you give us some examples of that? How has the church navigated these kinds of cultural shifts in the past?
Well, the church's history is full of examples of adaptation and assimilation.
All right.
From its early spread through the Roman Empire to its encounters with diverse cultures during the Age of Exploration to its engagement with modern science and philosophy.
Yeah.
The church has always been in dialogue with the world around it.
It's always had to be.
Right. And that doesn't mean that it's always embraced change easily.
Of course not.
Or without conflict.
Yeah.
There have definitely been periods of resistance, even persecution.
Of course.
But ultimately, the church has found ways to make its message relevant and accessible across cultures and throughout time.
So in a way, what we're seeing now with Luce and the Vatican's embrace of digital media, it's just another chapter in that story.
It is. It's part of a continuum.
Yeah.
And whether you see it as a positive or negative thing, it shows the church's its enduring power to engage with the world and to shape the course of human history.
This has been a really fascinating conversation so far.
It has.
We've gone over the history of the Jubilee, the symbolism of Luce's design, and the Vatican's reasons for choosing this approach. But there's still that one question.
Right.
Can Luce, with her blue hair and muddy boots, can she actually bridge the gap between the church and younger generations?
It's the big question.
It is.
We'll have to tackle that head on at the final part of our deep dive.
Can't wait. Okay, so we've gone over the history and the symbolism, and we've seen how people are reacting to Luce.
Right.
But the big question is still out there.
Yeah.
Can she actually do it? Can she bridge that gap between the church and younger generations?
That's a tough question.
It is.
There's no easy answer. There's a lot to consider here.
Yeah.
What is this gap really about?
Right, exactly.
Is it about relevance? Is it a language thing?
Yeah.
Or is it about different values?
Maybe it's all of those things, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Like young people today, they're just bombarded with information, with entertainment.
Right.
Their attention spans are all over the place.
Yeah, they're fragmented.
Their values are changing, and they're often really skeptical of these traditional institutions.
Exactly, and it's into this very complex landscape that Luce walks.
Yeah.
A blue-haired anime girl carrying a pilgrim's staff and a rosary.
It's definitely a bold strategy.
It is.
Some might even say risky.
Yeah, for sure.
You've mentioned risk a couple times. What are the downsides here for the Vatican? Like, what could go wrong?
Well, there's always a chance they could alienate older, more conservative members of the church.
Right.
You know, people who see this as pandering.
Yeah.
Or even sacrilegious.
Too modern.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's also the risk that young people won't buy it.
Yeah, they'll see right through it.
Yeah, they'll just dismiss Luce as a hollow attempt to be trendy.
Like trying too hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the internet.
Oh, right, the internet.
Always ready to turn anything into a meme.
A meme or just make fun of it.
Yeah, I can already imagine the less than reverent fan art that's probably out there.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's inevitable though.
Yeah.
It's part of the whole equation.
Right.
The church can't control how people react.
Of course not.
Or how they reinterpret these symbols. In a way, Luce's success might actually depend on her ability to be meme-ified.
Okay.
To become part of the internet's like visual language.
So they have to kind of embrace the chaos.
Yeah, I think so.
In order to get people's attention.
That's a pretty counterintuitive approach, though.
It is.
For an institution that's been around for centuries.
Right. It's not what you'd expect.
No, but remember, the church has a long history of adapting to the prevailing culture.
That's true.
What we think of as traditional today was once seen as radical and innovative.
Yeah, like those Gothic cathedrals.
Exactly.
Huge towering structures.
Yeah, they incorporated elements of pagan architecture.
Wow.
Pagan folklore.
Really?
To appeal to the masses back then.
To make it more relatable.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
And we can't forget about art and music and how that's been used throughout history to convey religious messages, to inspire devotion.
It's a powerful tool.
It is.
So Luce is, in a way, part of that tradition.
Yeah, she's like a 21st century icon.
An icon designed for the digital age.
Exactly.
But icons need believers, right?
They do.
So do you think Luce can actually inspire belief? Or is she just a clever marketing ploy?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I think she has the potential to spark curiosity, to get people asking questions.
Yeah.
To open their minds to the possibility of faith.
And maybe that's enough, right?
Yeah, maybe it's not about instant conversions, but about planting seeds, about starting conversations.
You mentioned earlier that Luce's success might depend on her ability to be meme-ified.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like how can something as seemingly trivial as a meme actually serve a religious purpose?
Well, memes they're the language of the internet.
Right.
It's how ideas spread, how communities are formed, how we express ourselves.
Okay.
So if Luce becomes a meme, it means she's entered the cultural bloodstream. You know?
Okay.
It means people are thinking about her.
Yeah.
Talking about her.
Right.
Even if it's in a humorous or ironic way.
So it's about getting on people's radar, even if it's through like humor and irony.
Exactly. It's about meeting people where they are.
Right.
On their own terms.
And humor is a powerful tool.
It is. It can disarm people.
Yeah.
Connect with them. Open up their hearts and minds.
It's interesting to think about the psychological impact of Luce.
Yeah.
Like you have this cute, non-threatening anime girl representing an institution that's often seen as powerful, judgmental, even forbidding.
Yeah, it's a deliberate softening of the image.
Okay.
A way of making the church feel less intimidating.
Less scary.
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying, hey, we're not so scary. We like anime too.
It's a clever strategy.
It is.
You know, it taps into that natural affinity we have for cute and playful things.
Right.
It disarms us. It makes us more receptive to the message.
Exactly.
Even if we don't, consciously realize it.
It's about creating an emotional connection.
Okay.
And that connection can be really powerful.
For sure.
Even if the message itself isn't explicitly stated.
So Luce is more than just a mascot. She's like a psychological Trojan horse.
Okay.
Smuggling this message of faith into the hearts and minds of a of a skeptical generation.
That's a very provocative way of putting it.
Yeah.
But I think there's some truth to that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the takeaway for our listener? What should they be thinking about?
I want them to think about the power of symbols.
Okay.
And how they can be used to bridge cultural divides.
Right.
To challenge assumptions, to open up new possibilities.
Yeah.
For dialogue and understanding.
It's about seeing the familiar, but in a new light. Exhaustioning our preconceived notions, embracing the unexpected.
And it's about remembering that even ancient institutions like the church, they can surprise us, they can challenge us, they can make us think in new ways.
So Luce is more than just a blue-haired anime girl.
Right.
She's a symbol of change, of adaptation, of the enduring power of faith to reinvent itself for a new generation.
And her journey is just beginning.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to watch where it leads, both for the church and for the world.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those possibilities. This has been your deep dive into the world of Luce, the Vatican's anime pilgrim.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep